What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. Give you a quick overview of some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility, and especially 1 week kind of before their earnings. Give you a good overview of if any analysts have been doing any changes to some of the key metrics. So I'm going to go over all that, but first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So on Friday, of course, like I've already done a dedicated video all about, it did do relatively well in comparison to the broader market. This upcoming week, though, it's going to be a crazy run, a roller coaster, because you do see on Thursday GDP and then on Friday PCE coming out. Aside from that, you have a couple of Fed speakers, but it's going to be those two data points that everyone and their dog is going to be watching, because roughly about a week and a half ago, the Feds did outright say that they're going to be watching the data to determine future rate hikes or cuts. Those are two very good examples of the data that they're going to be watching. So we'll just have to stay tuned for that. Looking at the fear and greed index, though, you do see it at 31. So people's appetite for risk isn't going to be necessarily there up front. There's still a lot of fear. Luckily enough, there hasn't been any escalations to the whole Israel scenario. So I think that could really help the broader market somewhat this week, but it's all going to come down to those two data points as well as these earnings. And there's this whole week is going to be crazy. So you're going to have GM, UPS, Tesla, Visa. In my opinion, so Visa will really affect SoFi as well as the broader market. Same goes for just Microsoft and a lot of the big tech names out there that obviously no doubtably will affect the broader market, but specific to SoFi, the only thing I really see is kind of Visa, as what is said from their earnings could directly affect SoFi. So that's just my own opinion, but regardless, this is going to be a crazy roller coaster with those two data points, just the whole tensions in the broader market and just companies unveiling their earnings. So there's going to be a crazy week. An interesting point though, looking at SoFi just on a larger scale, this has probably been one of the most lackluster pre-earnings run-ups that we've ever seen. Normally, I think there's only been one earnings, and that was like Q3 2023, if I remember correctly. That's where it actually went down leading into their upcoming earnings. But this one has been very lackluster. So we'll see if FOMO does kick in this week, because ultimately their earnings is right around the corner, 1 week away. So we'll just have to wait and see. No specific news from SoFi, no SEC filings as of late. So like I mentioned, it is just going to piggyback off of what happened on a larger scale. I just wanted to bring this up. I am kind of late on this, so my apologies, but it does look like SoFi has been named within, I guess, the top 5 banks in the US. So that is a very big accomplishment. It looks like it came out on the 16th. Somehow I just overlooked this or didn't really see it, but Anthony did retweet this, so I think this is a very positive thing. Aside from that though, shorts. So shorts have been somewhat stagnant over this last little bit. So it was 23% short interest, and then they kind of pulled down. So right now 17.44% of the free float is being shorted. On Friday, shorts did feel justified for it to return 677,000 shares, and this is why I do like to analyze this information, because by them returning kind of shows that it wasn't really justified, that crazy sell-off, in my opinion. Utilization is 73.52%, and then cost to borrow average is 1.05%. You can kind of see this right here. So you guys do with that what you will. But with all of the volatility in the broader market, if a lot of the data points and just the market is negative, you are going to see shorts continuously increasing. Maybe get back to that 20% range, which is kind of crazy, because I did anticipate, like a couple months ago, shorts to be returning some shares leading up to this very earnings. Enough, maybe we'll be at the 14% range, but still, this is crazy high. But when it comes down to this upcoming earnings, I'll give you a quick overview of what some analysts have been doing. So earnings per share hasn't really changed all that much. So it is anticipated to be 1 cent, and that's based off of 14 analysts. One analyst did recently change it, so it was slightly more optimistic, but still nothing overly crazy. So it's still anticipated to be positive and profitable and whatever else. That's definitely a must for this and going forward in the rest of 2024. Revenue though, you do see it kind of breaking the trend. So what we'll have to really watch for is if they do far exceed analyst expectations. Previously it was 574.39 based off of 12 analysts. Now there is 10 analysts with a consensus of 552, meaning it went down. So those 2 analysts that did remove their estimates were bullish. Why they removed them, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's linked to some analyst rating or something like that. But regardless, this technically isn't all that great. And some people, when I have brought up kind of a similar circumstance in the past, some people do say that this is bullish. The fact that now the expectations are a little bit lower, so when SoFi does exceed them, then yes, it will go up. But you also have to factor in my opinion, the market is going to really freak out about SoFi if it does not exceed their Q4, which was technically, the actual was 594.25 million. So I think in reality, SoFi might be stuck between just the mental game of Wall Street and the actuals of their earnings. So we'll just have to wait and see. And no doubtably, that is one attribute that Wall Street is going to take as a very big negative if they do not exceed their Q4. And so that's just my own opinion, of course, just throwing that out there. And maybe that's why we haven't seen FOMO, because Wall Street is anticipating a miss, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see ultimately, like I said. Moving on, looking at options. So with it successfully closing above $7, so I think that was deserving of a round of applause. You do have 13,000 in open interest, so you will see a nice spike up, most likely whether it be pre-market or during the trading day, as market makers do cover those 1.3 million in shares that's going to be exercised. It would have been better if it closed above that 8, because there was 71,000 in open interest at the 8, 32 at the 750, and then again that 13 at the 7. So that would be a huge, immense bump up. And going into this upcoming week, you already do see a small kind of wall around that 7. You do see a fairly large one at 750 as well as 8. So SoFi probably will unfortunately struggle with that 750 mark this upcoming week, but we'll just have to again just wait and see. There's a lot of different circumstances, data points that are coming out to really justify for SoFi and a lot of other value plays to go up. So again, it's just going to be a very volatile week, but big money has been starting to buy. You saw a lot of abnormal transactions on Friday, so maybe they will be the attributing factor that causes FOMO or starts kicking it off on Monday. But aside from all of that fun jazz, let's look on the technical. So with it closing at $7.11, it is right below this S2. So trading between this S3 and this S2. So 688 will be that next strong support, and then 713 will be that next strong resistance. But no doubtably, you'll probably see it flirt with that quite frequently on Monday and going into next week. So in reality, I am cautiously optimistic that SoFi is and will be able to get between this S1 and the pivot. But again, it'll be the data points that'll be the determining factor if it's able to get above that 750 mark, because you're going to have market makers not wanting to have SoFi above 750 unless it's 100% justified. So it's just a lot of manipulation with SoFi, and it'd be really nice for SoFi to eventually just get rid themselves of all the manipulation. It is getting kind of tiring to constantly see, because realistically, I was anticipating SoFi to be at least like 950 going into their upcoming earnings. Of course, I don't think anyone could have predicted what was going to come from the Middle East, but I don't know, here we are. On the actual chart itself, lower percentile of the Bollinger Band, you can tell just over the last several days, it has wanted to break out, just not really enough to get above or transition into the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. Stochastic, you do see it at 18, so that is considered oversold. So if, again, there's a piece of news that does come out specific to SoFi or the broader market, you should see a rush of value investors. A number of retail investors have been really holding up like a champ, and if anything at times kind of increasing. So if you're one of those individuals that have been buying, give yourself a shout out in the comments below, or if you do plan on buying this upcoming week, at what price is your ideal entry and why? Is it because of their upcoming earnings? Do you think that's going to be a massive beat, or are you just dollar cost averaging? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far, and with all that, appreciate all of you watching.